Welcome to Beyond the Mirror podcast. I'm delighted to introduce today a very special guest and a very successful female leader, Suze Alexander. Suze is a general manager for Evolus UK and Ireland. Welcome, Suze.
Thank you, Olha.
Suze, it's a great pleasure to have you, and I think we need more women leaders in the industry as well as in other sectors. I highly admire successful women in their career or women entrepreneurs, and I think by sharing our experience we can learn so much from each other.
Absolutely.
So Suze, can you please tell us what inspired your career in healthcare sector and in aesthetic industry sector?
Absolutely, Ola. I actually started my career as an occupational therapist in the NHS, working in mental health. And I didn't really know what OTs were, but actually, as I went through school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to be. And I met an OT and thought, actually, that sounds great. So I spent 10 years in the NHS, and through that role, I met several sales reps from pharmaceutical industry. And one day I thought, actually, I would quite like to do something a little bit different. So I made the move into the pharmaceutical industry as a sales rep, which was quite different actually from my clinical background at the time. And I loved it. I loved that commercial world. I loved finding out a little bit more about products, about pharmaceutical products, and really understanding the impact that they had on patients' lives. And I think because I'd been clinical, that gave me, I had a particular interest in that kind of area as well. So as a salesperson, I didn't have a commercial background. I didn't have a business background, but I understood the kind of patient journey much better. And I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for a number of years. And after a bit of a career break, I was looking for something a bit different. I didn't just want to go back into mainstream pharmaceuticals. And I had the opportunity to interview for a company who had a product in aesthetics. And the aesthetics industry, that was back in 2004. And the aesthetic industry back then was in its infancy. And I didn't really know about what these products did or how they worked or anything, but it was the best move I ever made, and I never looked back.
Well, I think it's very interesting. First of all, I never knew that you actually were working as a healthcare professional. So that is very interesting to know. And I think understanding patient journey 100% makes you a much better in terms of being better, not sales, but person, because what they say is that the best people not selling the products, they changing people's life. Absolutely. And realizing their dreams, isn't
Absolutely.
it? And you need to understand what you're trying to achieve with that. But my next question was, what is the most memorable moment in your career so far?
It's actually quite a recent one. So I think back in 2015, I stepped aside from aesthetics for a while, and I went back into kind of mainstream healthcare. I joined Johnson & Johnson Medical, so biggest healthcare company in the world, and found myself in theatres with my team selling medical devices. And I was with them for 6 years until I got a phone call from an old boss of mine offering me this opportunity to join a small startup pharmaceutical company that people hadn't heard of. It was a challenging decision, a difficult decision to leave something that was very secure. But again, I think coming to a small company has really helped me understand, a lot of our customers, where it's your private business, it's hard work. You roll your sleeves up, you take on a lot of different kind of jobs and things. So yes, I think moving into this role has probably been the most exciting one.
Well, and I think your company is very exciting as well. The way how you do things is a breath of fresh air in our industry. And now coming back again, we only grow when we're out of the comfort zone. So was it out of the comfort zone move?
Completely. I was given the opportunity to build a team, to lead a team. I had experience in sales and as a sales manager, and in training and education, which has always been really important for me, even from my occupational therapy days. But there are so many aspects of being a general manager that I hadn't had experience of before, and my learning curve has been kind of straight up rather than not much of a curve. But it's been great, and I think, you know, I fully believe every day's a school day. We continually learn, and that's okay. It's okay not to know everything. It's okay to say not sure about that, or I got that wrong. I think those are really important lessons.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Suze. Suze, if you need to describe your career in 3 words, what they would be and why?
Gosh. Evolving, actually, that works well with my company name as well, Everless. But I've changed you know, throughout the different roles in my career and the different types of things, having been an occupational therapist in the NHS and then into this role, I think continually evolving. Surprising would be another one. If you had said to me as an OT, as a young OT back working up in Glasgow all those years ago, that one day I would be the GM of a performance beauty company looking after the UK and Ireland, I would never have believed you. And I think it's exciting, actually. I love my career. I love the opportunities that come my way. It's challenging a lot of the times, but I would stick with probably evolving, surprising and exciting.
I love this, and I think it's so important to love what you do, because practically we spend more time at work than we do at home.
Absolutely.
And if you're unhappy, it makes careers so difficult.
I completely agree.
So, Suze, you said that you were surprised and you didn't believe how far your career will go. Absolutely. And now you're in charge of a big, successful company. How does it feel to be a female leader in the world which is still pretty much dominated by males?
I love it, Ola, I have to say. That's the first thing. You're right, it is still very much dominated by males, and I think you just need to go to the big congresses and to see the people on stage. I've been lucky enough to have a few kind of role models within this industry who are women, some of who have championed me in the past, which I think really makes a difference. There have been some really challenging moments. I think, you know, raising a family in any job, in any career, or juggling life, it doesn't have to be a family, it could be elderly parents or anything else. I think for me, you know, women still are the primary carers of children, and that period particularly was challenging. I was working with a lot of men at the time who had wives, partners at home who were looking after kids, and I think there is the kind of ethos about women can do everything. I'm not necessarily sure I believe that, because I think you can, but I think there's always a juggle and there's always a compromise, and I think that's okay to have that compromise. But I think the idea that for me it's certain things you can focus on, and like your career, and certain times to focus on things like family. And I know you and I had a conversation recently about an opportunity, and you chose to be with your family that weekend, and I think that's I think that's so important, because they always come first. So I think more and more now, it's great to see more women leaders coming in, and I am lucky enough to work with some incredible women leaders. I've got a predominantly female team, and I think giving people that opportunity to really shine as women in this industry is so important.
I'm so glad that you highlighted that importance of accepting that, you know, we're just humans. Sometimes I think women pursue that they need to be perfect everywhere. Absolutely. Perfect at home, perfect at work. And I don't think that type of pressure is applied on male. I think they kind of more go through life and it's just expected that it will happen, but as a woman we kind of feel under more pressure. Yeah. So it's I think it's very important to share those stories.
Well, one of the things that I think is interesting, my sister's a pilot, so she's very successful in a very male dominated industry, and one thing that she's noticed, that she talks a lot about female in leadership and in male dominated roles. We often apologise more, you know, and it's something that I'm very guilty of. Always kind of saying sorry about this, or sorry I couldn't make that, or picking up the kids, or whatever it happens to be. And I think that is very much a female thing that males don't do, actually. And it was something that was really highlighted by my sister.
So, Suze, how do you see personally, there is a real difference between the leadership style in female and male leaders?
I think that's a really interesting question. I think as with everything, there's you can have female leaders who all lead in a different way and male leaders who all lead in a different way. I think the what I've seen maybe is a little bit more kind of empathy, understanding from female leaders that I've worked with, certainly. But that doesn't go across the board, because I've worked with some fantastic male leaders as well. I think the important thing when you are a female leader, and certainly for me, something that I hold very true, is family first for my team and for people that I manage, and that doesn't have to be personal family. It can be friends. It can be something. But we're leaders in a role, in a job. Life outside of that is always more important, and being able to kind of be authentic, really think about the person, and if you do that, I've always found that actually people give a lot more. If you respect that, you respect their kind of circumstances. Whether that's a specifically female thing or whether that's just something that I hold true, I'm not sure.
Well, I think maybe I'm mistaken as well, but we all have our views and opinions. I do think as a woman we're probably more sensitive to things, so more emotional in some way. Sometimes it could be strength, sometimes it could be weakness as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's something I've been told in my career in the past, that I'm too nice.
Okay.
I don't believe that that's a bad thing.
No.
I don't think it has to be a bad thing. I think there is often a misconception that you have to be really ruthless to succeed in business or in industry. I don't believe I am particularly ruthless. I think it's just, I think if you look after people, and I think one of the things that has certainly come true in my life and in my career, when I stepped away from aesthetics back in 2014, I wasn't anticipating coming back into aesthetics. And luckily, the relationships I made were still very strong and positive, because 6 years later, I came back into aesthetics, and I'm now working with so many people that I used to work with. And so maintaining those relationships and not being too ruthless to try and get what you want, I think is so important.
Yeah, it might be a different story if you would be a ruthless leader.
It might be. Some of the team maybe wouldn't want to come back and work with me. So,
What would a piece of advice would you give to future female leaders who are just stepping into this role or thinking about it?
I think it's important to look at all the skills you gain in a particular role. I think it's very, I've worked with people in the past that are very focused on what's next. It's feeling like it's the next rung in the career ladder. But I think it's okay to just pause. It's okay to learn. Think of all the aspects you can learn from your current role. I think it's important to maybe find someone to champion you. Now, that could be an official mentor, perhaps in the business, or it could just be somebody that you kind of look up to. I was very fortunate to have a senior figure in this industry, a global figure, Cara Van Hove, when I worked in a previous company, who really championed me, and I'm still in touch with her now. And she was somebody that I could look up to. She was someone I could take advice from, and I would say that for anybody, that really helps, actually, finding someone that you can do that to. And certainly there's people for me right now that I mentor, and that I'm maybe the champion in the same way as Cara was for me.
Well, I suppose that is probably the biggest reward if people come to you for their advice and you feel that you can mentor them and share your experiences. I think giving back is probably more rewarding than actually receiving.
Absolutely. And I firmly believe that my role as a leader is to provide a platform for my team to shine. As any kind of figurehead of a company, you are only as good as your team. And if I think of my sales team out there, my managers, my marketing team, and my peers in the company, we're all there to support each other. I find it, one of the things is my real pet hate is seeing people taking credit for other people's work. And I think as a true leader, it's an opportunity to allow your team to shine and to give them that platform to do so.
Well, that is, I think, a very useful advice that you gave us. So thank you very much. So Suze, being a leader of very dynamic company, I would say companies that in a way have changed certain things in the UK in terms of aesthetic, and I also privileged to be a part of it as well. So do you think, how do you see aesthetic industry in the next 5-10 years?
Thank you for that compliment, actually, Olha. That's something that we've wanted to do. We want to be disruptive in this industry and change it a little bit. I think the whole industry is moving more towards total wellness, a much more holistic kind of approach. And I've definitely seen that difference, having stepped away for 6 years and then kind of coming back. There is much more emphasis on aging well rather than anti-aging, and on overall health rather than just a kind of facade of kind of beauty. And I think that's a really, really positive change and kind of evolution within this industry.
I 100% agree with you, and I'm a big advocate that the true beauty starts from within, and I'm glad that so many practitioners now embracing this practice. And in this way, I think we can not only change how the person look, but how the person feel as
Absolutely.
well. Which leads me to the next question, and that is the question that I ask every guest on my podcast, because it's called Beyond the Mirror. Do you believe that correctly performed aesthetic treatment product that is correctly prescribed to the patient is have impact which is beyond the mirror, that truly change people's life?
100%, 100%. And I think it's, I think we all know, we all have days where you might jump out of bed in the morning feeling great, and then you're having a really bad hair day and you're conscious of that all day or something. I think, how we look does affect how we feel. And it's so important to be able to feel on the inside the way we look, or to look on the outside the way we feel. And I think I've been lucky enough in my career, even though I'm not a clinician, I've been lucky enough to witness a lot of different treatments, and to see the impact that it's had. And I have a particular memory actually of a number of years ago of a lady coming in to have treatment. She was it was on a training course, so she was a model. She might not have been somebody that would have been able to have the treatments outside of that opportunity. And when she looked in the mirror after her treatments, she dissolved into tears, and it was really humbling, actually, I think is the best word I can use to describe it, because the impact on her was, it was such an emotional response. And I think this industry sometimes gets quite a hard time for being all about vanity, and I think that's so untrue. It really affects how people feel. So to your point, it goes way beyond the mirror.
Well, thank you very much for sharing the same vision and ethos in aesthetic. But I agree with you that often this industry has been pursued in completely wrong light. And maybe on the other hand, rightly so, because in countries like UK, sadly, we still don't have regulation. And sometimes it feels like a wild west where anyone can administer the treatments, things can go wrong, person can't get help.
Yes.
So do you believe that we need to do more to increase safety? And do you think that, for example, companies could do more as well to make this change happen faster?
Absolutely. I think there have been inroads into this for sure. I think it's everybody's responsibility to increase that. I think as clinicians, making sure that clinicians are educated and have the experience in order to deliver the treatments that they do. And as companies, as manufacturers, we have a huge responsibility. On the one hand, making sure that our products are sold through reputable channels with reputable distributors or direct or whatever, so that the products you're using are genuine, and that's a huge responsibility. I think the companies out there that, unfortunately, there are some that sell on Amazon, for example, or if things are kind of too cheap, often it's the same across life. If something looks too good to be true, chances are it probably is. So I think that's one area that manufacturers can take responsibility. The other big area for me is training. It's all about training and education, and I think it's a big part of what we do at Evolus. It's a really core part of how we support our customers, making sure that they are appropriately trained, and also making sure that we provide as much information as we possibly can around our products and around the treatments that are available.
Well, and I can absolutely agree with you, because I have had a phenomenal experience training with you and grow with you as a clinician. So I would absolutely take my hat off and would say Evolus training is
Thank you.
Absolutely spot on. So thank you very much for supporting us, Suze.
No, delighted to.
So Suze, with all this crazy world out there of aesthetic and unregulated treatments, black market products, and so much information as well as disinformation, I think for general public sometimes it can be confusing.
Absolutely.
So what would be your piece of advice for the patient who's looking for a treatment? What they should do to stay safe, to go to the right practitioner, to the safe practice?
It is a real minefield out there, Ola, to be honest. I think my advice to the patients are to do your homework. I think in terms of finding the right practitioner, the right healthcare practitioner, looking at what qualifications they have, looking at their experience, really understanding kind of how long they've been in the industry, what they've been doing, as opposed to just kind of looking on social media and seeing things, as I say, things like bargains. These are medical treatments, therapeutic treatments. They come with kind of risk as well as benefit, and I think fully understanding that and doing that kind of research is so important. I think it's important not to just follow kind of beauty trends. Social media unfortunately can lead people down all sorts of paths. So doing thorough research. I think there are a lot of regulatory bodies out there. You can check up with them to make sure your practitioner is suitably qualified, for example. So it's all about kind of doing your homework, I think.
Oh, Suze, I think that is a really good piece of advice, and I think we coming to probably very similar answers from all the guests. Do your research, never be attracted or make a decision based on cheap price. I think that is probably the worst decision you can make.
Absolutely.
Suze, your insights has been brilliant. I think people who are patients, those who are practitioners, and those women who are in leadership role could learn so much and pick up different things for themselves. So thank you very much for sharing this. But if someone wants to learn more about your company, so where can they find this information, where people can find more?
So there are two places actually. So we have an Instagram account, everless.uk, and we have a website, so everless.com/UK. You can find out about the company on the website. If you're a clinician, if you're an HCP, you can find out about the product as well. We're not able to provide information about our product direct to consumers or direct to the public because of the Medicines Act. So it's very heavily regulated, and rightly so, in the UK. But if patients or consumers would like to find out about our product, they can ask the healthcare practitioners about that.
Well, thank you very much, Suze. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ola.